At 2 a.m. on September 21st, 2025, over the Black Sea near Kachcha Air Base, Crimea. After Ukraine had already shredded one-third of the Black Sea fleet, Russia sent forward its last specialized hunters, the Berry of B-12 amphibious aircraft. Moscow believed these were the God's Eye weapons that would staunch the losses and punish Ukraine's boldness. They were mistaken. 125 miles away, a pack of 10 drones screamed toward them. This was a precision strategic kill. Removing these hunters would hand Ukraine control of the sea again. But first, the swarm had to run a brutal gauntlet. The first obstacle, a Russian Su-300 fighter at 500 Farsif. Its Bars M radar swept the heavens, yet it detected nothing. The drones hugged the surface, exploiting Earth's curvature as a near-perfect stealth cloak. The second threat, however, proved far deadlier. Without warning, the lead drone fell silent, hit by a Kasuka-4 electronic warfare strike that flooded its sensors with garbage data. The GPS link died. To survive, the drone's AI gambled, switching to inertial navigation. That survival move carried a heavy price. Flying blind while fighting savage sea winds guzzled its battery. On the operator's SCR, Ian, a stark warning, blinked. The lead drone's battery plunged to 30%. It had beaten the jammer, but now faced the enemy of time. The whole swarm followed a blind leader with a dying battery toward the most fortified shoreline on the planet. At 02:14 a.m., the swarm skimmed the waves at 165 FET in a perpetual battle against the elements. 10-foot waves battered their stability, while a 25 mm crosswind forced guidance fins into micro-adjustments hundreds of times per second. This was a fight governed by physics, and it was costly. For the lead drone on inertial navigation, every half-minute costs a brutal 8% of battery life. Inside the control van, the ghost operators watched the numbers bleed away. They flew the mission on a single fragile thread. Just when hope seemed to return, a new hunter entered the theater. A Russian Orion drone, a long-endurance surveillance platform loitering near Kachcha. Unlike the Su-30, this predator wasn't searching for radar returns. It listened for the faint 5.8 kHz whisper of the Rabaka's video feed, the electronic fingerprint that would betray them. The Ukrainian counter was reckless and brilliant. They went completely dark. With one command, the operators severed their own video link, willingly plunging themselves into blindness. They handed the mission over to the swarm's autonomous AI, which would now rely on preloaded Starlink satellite data to find its way home. One problem was solved, but another was born. The machines were now on their own. At 02:25 a.m., 15 mi from Kachcha Air Base, the swarm rejoined its flight path and entered a meticulously prepared kill zone. The Russian defense was layered. The drones had to punch through each ring. The outermost layer was the S-400, ruling the sky above 1,000 FOFD and forcing attackers into a low-altitude approach. That was exactly Moscow's plan. By forcing threats down to wave-top level, they channeled them straight into the jaws of the second layer, the Panzer S-1. This short-range killer fires guided missiles engineered to shred small, fast targets inside a 12-mile radius, optimized to destroy cruise missiles and drones. The swarm had escaped jammers and fighters only to face the one weapon built from day one to be their predator. Survived that, and they still confronted the final desperate defense. The Mi-8 helicopter, a mobile guardian. Its President S system didn't fire missiles. It emitted a blinding infrared pulse designed to send heat-seeking guidance systems into chaos. At 02:31 a.m., 8 miles from Kachcha, the Russian position was a fortress of steel and sensors. But Ukraine didn't bring a battering ram. They carried a skeleton key. The plan? Rubaka Shadow Swarm, a masterclass in electronic deception. First, they neutralized the prowling Su-300. As 7 primary drones skimmed the sea, 3 others climbed slightly and switched on a transponder that screamed a false radar return. The 9 GHz signature of a Ukrainian Su-27 fighter. On Russian displays, 3 tiny drones suddenly read like a full fighter flight. The trap snapped shut. The Su-30 pilot pitched hard, pulling a turn that crushed him into his seat with 9 Gs as he hurtled 10 miles away to chase ghosts. With the fighter distracted, the main swarm turned its attention to the S-400 and the Panzer. The problem for Russia wasn't a lack of power in their radars, but rather too much. The Rybaka drone's radar cross-section is only 0.05 square meters, about the size of a dinner plate. And a multi-billion-dollar air defense network, tuned for bombers and missiles, treats such tiny returns as clutter. These micro-signatures are filtered out as birds or atmospheric noise. The world's priciest shield had a blind spot, and the Ukrainians flew straight through it. Before the strike even began, they neutralized the Mi-8's last sensors. One drone carried a French electronic warfare pod, technology from a Mirage 2000. It didn't jam radar, it attacked the president's thermal camera, the electronic equivalent of shoving a spotlight into a night camera. The system wasn't destroyed, but was rendered utterly blind. For roughly $200,000, Ukraine methodically dismantled a network worth hundreds of millions, all without firing a single conventional shot. The fortress had been picked. Now it was time to burn it. At 02:37 a.m., Ukrainian operators knew that a silent enemy was a thinking enemy, and it was time to force Russia's hand. A decoy drone executed a pre-planned move and released a cloud of chaff 1,000 meters from the base. The puff of aluminum was a classic radar probe that tested the Panzer's reaction times. The tactical gambit had an immediate unintended effect. The brief, bright flash on the horizon looked, to human eyes on the tarmac, like a flare, a sure sign of inbound attack. Covert infiltration turned instantaneously into live engagement. The Mi-8 crew, already on edge, spooled up engines. Within 60 seconds, the helicopter was airborne, its sensors hunting. It picked up one of the climbing decoys and locked on. A Verba surface-to-air missile ripped skyward at supersonic speed. The decoy Rubaka erupted in a silent flash, the swarm's first casualty. The missile's launch fed the Su-30 pilot's belief he'd chased real targets. Enraged, he threw his fighter back toward the base. Too distant for precision missiles, he resorted to brute force. A salvo of unguided S-8 rockets, 150mm steel, detonated where the swarm was expected to be. It was not finesse, but fury, intended to shatter tight formations. The shock waves struck like a hammer, scattering drones 100 meters off course. In that instant of chaos, the Panzer S-1 awoke. With the main swarm momentarily knocked off its low-altitude track, the radar achieved a clean lock. Green targeting icons appeared on the screens of 2 more Rybakas. The trap had sprung, jammed by the Kasuka, pounded by the fighter, bracketed by the planet's deadliest anti-drone system. To a Russian eye, the swarm now looked broken. What they didn't know, the drones were no longer taking orders from 125 meters away. They had begun talking to each other. The Ukrainians activated ACE, the Swarm AI Sync. A low-power encrypted link blinked between the 7 surviving drones, forming an independent internal network. Russia had severed the operator link. The drones simply started conversing. It was like trying to stop a concert by cutting the mains, then discovering the band has battery amps. Instantly, the AI scanned the new battlefield. It ignored the Su-30, logged the Panzerlock, assessed the Mi-8 threat, and computed a flawless attack plan in microseconds. The formation stopped being a single mass and became an intelligent organism. It split into 3 autonomous strike groups. 4 drones streaked for high-value B-12s on the tarmac, 2 reoriented to hunt the airborne Mi-8, and the last decoy peeled away on a suicidal run to draw panzer fire. Inside the Kachcha command bunker, chaos reigned. The commander screamed for status. His radar screens showed only chaff clouds, a lone decoy, and then nothing. The main swarm had dropped to wave tops and vanished. In his Su-30 cockpit, the pilot stared at an empty radar and shouted, "Where are they? Where are they?" He was asking the wrong question. The right question was, how many seconds did his base have left? At 02:40 a.m., deception ended and violence began. In the Ukrainian control vault, the operator became a witness to the AI's merciless symphony, watching telemetry with his hand hovering over redundant controls. His final duty was to observe. 10 seconds. He breathed into his mic. Go. The 7 drones reacted instantly. They ceased skimming and pitched upward, then dove at a punishing 45 degrees, no longer evading but attacking, accelerating to a terminal velocity of 125 miles. On the ground, and the Panzer operator fought to survive. His system, built to methodically acquire and kill 1 or 2 targets, now faced 7 incoming objects from multiple vectors. The computer screamed as it tried to solve the impossible. It fired a missile, then another, a futile gesture, like trying to stop hornets with a rifle. In the air, the Mi-8 pilot was not fighting so much as fleeing, pitching to escape the kill box, too late. 2 drones had locked his heat signature. They were hunting him, not the base. Finally, the Su-30 pilot returned, an impotent witness to the finale. He watched through his optics, but was powerless. His million-dollar missiles kill high-altitude fighters, not plywood drones under 100 Fafurth. Through the thermal lens of the lead drone, the target was stark, the gull-wing silhouette of a Beerier B-12, parked and helpless. The range counter fell with terrifying speed, 1,500 by violence. In the Kachcha bunker, the commander screamed, "Stop them! Shoot them down!" He could do nothing but watch. At 02:41.112, the first drone struck a Beria B-12's wing. Its a 110 lb heat warhead spat a jet of molten copper at 25,000 dice ft-sec, punching a clean aperture through the 2-inch aluminum skin. In the microseconds it takes to breach, it ignited a 2,000 lb fuel tank. The ensuing detonation sent a shockwave ripping through the air at thousands of feet per second. The unarmored airframe tore under the force. Before the first fireball peaked, a second drone slammed into the aircraft's belly, where anti-submarine torpedoes were stowed. The sympathetic detonation of 500 lb of explosives split the B-12 in half. A second pair of drones repeated the sequence on the other aircraft. Simultaneously, the 2 drones hunting the Mi-8 closed fast. Evasive piloting proved useless. One drone struck the tail boom, severing it. The other hit the fuselage and ignited the helicopter's own rack of Ataka anti-tank missiles. The Mi-8 was torn apart from within, its weapons becoming instruments of destruction. The Su-300 pilot could only circle as a billion-dollar spectator, watching assets he'd been tasked to protect burn. On the ground, the Panzer fell silent. From first impact to last, took under 30 seconds. The aftermath looked like an industrial slaughter. 2 $10 million maritime patrol planes and a $15 million helicopter were reduced to 3 smoldering wrecks on the tarmac. Ukraine's price, roughly $200,000 for 10 drones. Russia's loss, about $35 million in hardware. More crucially, It was a strategic catastrophe. With the B-12 hunters gone, Russia's ability to detect and destroy Ukraine's Mura sea drones was severely crippled. The God's Eye had been blinded. This 3-minute operation reopened vital shipping lanes near Odessa and forced Russia to commit far more expensive assets like Orions on constant, fuel-hungry patrols, bleeding resources day after day. Russia had brought fortress defenses to a knife fight, unaware that Ukraine's blade could slip through their smallest gaps. What critical Russian asset should Ukraine target next? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this breakdown of modern warfare useful, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next operation.